Hey guys, Brycen with Trick Tools here, and today I want to talk to you guys about some thoughts and ideas that you need to keep in mind when choosing the right saw for what you are trying to accomplish. So there's a lot of different ways to think about cutting as far as, what type of machine you need when you're doing that. So I've got a selection of saws here that are kind of a variety of what we offer. And we do offer more than what's here, but this will give you an example of the different types of saws that we offer and what, the versions of what you could have for your shop, whether it be bigger than what I'm showing or a version of what's here, that sort of thing. So for starters, for more of a small shop atmosphere or a job site type saw, we have some different benchtop models. So we have a number of different benchtop style band saws. We have some different TCT saws as well. We even had some handheld TCT saws. There's some different options as far as that's concerned. We also have this jig here that holds the Milwaukee, and we also have one that holds the DeWalt Portaband saws. So a lot of people might see this jig and think, okay, that's pretty sweet. I can turn my Portaband into a chop saw style cutting bandsaw. And some people might look at it and say, that's cool, I need to buy me that jig, and I also need to go pick up a saw in order to use it. Well, really the point of this jig fixture is for somebody who already has the Portaband saw here that they use it frequently for the use of a Portaband as a handheld saw. You're using it on a job site, whatever you're working on. You need the portability of being able to use the saw as it's intended, but you want to get some more use out of it. So you want to pick up one of these Portaband Pro jigs to be able to put your saw in, to then give you that extra capability of your saw. So that way, you spend that money on the Portaband, you're using it for what it's intended for. Well, now you can get more use and further your money, for what you've purchased here. So if you don't need the handheld aspect of a Portaband saw to be able to use it by itself, handheld, using it that way, and you just want more of this style of bandsaw, chop saw style bandsaw use, really you should be stepping up to a dedicated benchtop bandsaw type unit. Now we have a number of different sizes of these, all the way from a smaller, I would say hobbyist to small occasional use, shop use. In that sense, we have the smaller ones. This is a NG120 hem saw. We also have the 782, and that is the smallest in the line, and then we go up from there. Different options, different stuff available. And stepping up to a dedicated horizontal bandsaw like this for your benchtop setup can really make your cutting more accurate, cleaner, maybe make less noise in your shop as well, those sort of things, and even expand some capabilities. Now a saw like this has a variable speed motor, so it really can, if you're doing a lot of different materials, say stainless to aluminum, steel, that sort of thing, depending on what you're cutting and the size, all that, you can use a saw like this with a variable speed motor in order to get those different materials cut. This saw in particular has a 4 3/4 inch cutting capacity at a 90-degree angle like this, and you can miter this here. So this saw can miter up to 60 degrees, which is pretty cool. That's a pretty extreme angle for such a small unit. And if you are going up in size, I think at a 45, this saw is rated at 3 1/4 inch cutting capacity on round tubes. So there's some different aspects of a benchtop type bandsaw like this that can either be really helpful, or depending on what you're cutting on, even here you may need to step up to something different. So some things to keep in mind with something like this is that the bandsaw blades themselves tend to be smaller, and the smaller the bandsaw blade, as far as the width of the bandsaw blade, the thickness, all that, can lend itself to an accurate cut depending on what you're cutting, or on the other hand, if you're cutting something that's pretty thick, something that you're trying to put some pressure on through the material, you can actually cause the blade to deflect because the blade is a little bit thinner, and that will cause obviously not as accurate of a cut, and that sort of thing. So some things to think about when you're looking at these saws. So then we have these TCT style saws that are the tungsten carbide tipped blade saws. These they look like a traditional chop saw, but they operate using a tungsten carbide tipped blade with saw teeth on it, so it's not an abrasive saw that you would think about in the general sense of a chop saw. So it's going to give you a clean cut. It's going to be a cold cut, so when you get done cutting, as opposed to an abrasive style saw, when you get done with this, it's going to be you're able to pick that part right up. You can even touch where it was cut, and it's not going to burn you or anything like that. So these tend to be a little more messy. They do throw chips around, not as bad as an abrasive style chop saw where you end up with sparks going everywhere, but these do create a little bit of a mess. You can do some mitering up to 45 degrees on here by moving the vise back plate there. Pretty good capacity on these saws as well. If you're comparing, do I need one of these? Do I need one of these? Really, I think it would come down to your max, maybe what you're cutting as far as material. If you're doing a lot of stainless or a lot of other things, if you're doing stuff that's a lot bigger in size, if you're doing mostly stuff that's smaller in size, do you need the extreme mitering capability, those sort of things. So those are some things to think about when you're looking at the difference between these two saws. Both of these types of saws, and even the Portaband jig here, if you had a Portaband, they're all portable, so that makes them great for job site applications. You can really easily grab it, load it in your truck, take it out to a job site, that sort of thing. So both of them can be good at that, but the thing they lack in a shop setting is I would say the foundation of a good bigger, maybe more structurally sound built bandsaw that's going to give you the super precise, accurate cutting time after time after time. And that's what these would kind of lack more in a shop setting. So if you are doing all of your work in a shop and you're doing a lot of cutting over and over and over again, that's where you'll need to look more in the direction of a cold saw or a dedicated horizontal bandsaw or a vertical at that, depending on what you're working on. So when you're looking at these in comparison to the benchtop models, a saw like this Dake cold saw here, this saw is built incredibly well, structurally sound, cast iron base, cast iron head, really well made parts internally, really nice big vise, heavy duty for being able to clamp material in and out thousands of times and be able to make thousands of cuts on this. This saw uses coolant, so it's going to be circulating coolant through the machine to cool off your cut. And this machine is going to give you extremely precise cuts over and over and over. So that would be the benefit of a saw like with this style of chop saw type action, as opposed to more of a TCT saw like this. So this is going to give you just way more repeatability on your parts. So if you're really trying to, if you're doing manufacturing, you need to cut a lot of parts the same length, you can set it up to where you can just run your material through and make the same precise cuts time after time. And that's what's so good about a cold saw like this. Now, if you're talking about a bandsaw, this is the LS 1600, and really this is when you start talking about more capability, more precision, more user-friendly type aspects. This saw is actually the smallest in their lineup. Then they have the 1800, 3000, and 4000 saws. Get bigger in size, and really when you start getting bigger in size, it allows you to do more capacity, bigger blade size, all that kind of thing. That's going to give you just a more precise cut. Your blades are going to last a really long time when used properly. This saw here has a 10-inch round cutting capacity at 90 degrees. So that is a huge piece of material that you can fit in there. So if you're doing some bigger things, this would be the direction you need to start going on the bigger material. So really, what you need to think about, no matter what saw you're looking at, is if you're looking at a saw and it's going to be operating near max capacity all the time based on what you're working on, probably need to be stepping up into something bigger, something a little bit more, built for, a different purpose. So traditionally, you don't want to be buying anything, whether you're buying a car or anything like that. You don't want to be operating anything at maximum capacity all the time, because all you're going to be doing is wearing it out faster. So when you're looking at something, if back here on this NG120 4 3/4 inch cut capacity, if you're going to be planning to cut 4.5 inch round tubing all day long every day, and that's all you're doing, probably should step up to something else, just based on not operating the saw at maximum capacity all the time. And that's that would be a tip that I would say is a good way to look at, no matter what saw you're looking at, is making sure that you're operating the saw in a comfortable range. That way the machine will last as long as it can for you, and you're not going to be wearing out the components of the saw, prematurely, that sort of thing, especially your consumables like your saw blades and all that kind of stuff, because those do get expensive when you're constantly operating them at their limits. So keep all this stuff in mind when you're thinking about the different saws that you can have in your shop. Hopefully this kind of gives you some size perspective too. We do have like I said, we do have a number of different benchtop model band saws, and they do vary in size a little bit. We do have some more content on that. A couple of different styles of TCT saws, but they're pretty much around the same size as far as the benchtop models, other than the handheld saws that get a little smaller in that realm. So for more information on all the saws that we have on our website, visit our website, check out the information there. If you have any more questions, you can contact us and we can get you helped out from there. So thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.